So President Trump has officially made it illegal to be anti-fascist. Now, if you think I'm being hyperbolic or twisting words or creating some sort of narrative here, we are going to look at his very own words here in a moment. And I'm also going to explain to you why this is essentially a broad crackdown on any political opposition to President Trump. Now, we've been warning about stuff like this for even before he was elected, and now here we are, not even a year in. I hate being vindicated. I hate being right in the end because most of my predictions are pretty grim. But if you have any anchor in reality, none of this should really surprise you. Now, the surprising thing to me is just how quickly we have gone off the rails here. But anyways, I'm not going to ramble anymore. Let's get into this article, and we're going to look at the Truth Social, the Truth, or whatever they call them over there on that platform that President Trump has put out. Now, from CBS News, Trump announces he's designating Antifa as a major terrorist organization. Now, once we read through this, I'm going to explain to you just how dumb that is. Heck, maybe this article will point it out. But anyways, President Trump announced Wednesday that he will designate Antifa as a terrorist organization and is recommending investigations into people who allegedly fund it. It's unclear when the designation will take place or what legal implications it will have. Antifa, short for anti-fascist, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and assume that I'm going to say over half of MAGA doesn't actually understand that Antifa stands for anti-fascist, anti-fascism, whatever. So, and this article is going to kind of hint to what I'm going to talk about here later, but it is a loose affiliation of mostly left-leaning activists and generally is not considered to be a highly organized group. So, they have the quote of the truth here. We're just going to jump over and read it directly just to make sure we get everything. So this is from Donald J. Trump at Real Donald Trump. I am pleased to inform our many USA patriots that I am designating Antifa, a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster, as a major terrorist organization. I will also be strongly recommending that those funding Antifa be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I still feel like it's not Trump doing these anymore because then the last one I read, he had a bunch of exclamation points. It was all lowercase. Didn't he used to make this capital? Sorry, maybe I'm out of date on my Trump Truth Social lore, but anyways, so that is what he put out. Now, we'll give a courtesy read to the rest of this article. It provides a little bit of context and a little bit of history that we've gone over, but in case you need a quick refresher, CBS News has reached out to the White House for further details. Mr. Trump made a similar announcement that Antifa would be designated as a terrorist group during his first term in 2020 when the country was gripped by turbulent protests, but never followed through on the threat. So he's threatened this before, but he never actually did it. That's because in his first term, there were still some semblance of guide rails around him and people that were, not just yes men and would kind of put the brakes on a lot of his craziest ideas. I can't recall the general that shot this down or who exactly shot this down, but in 2020, he's like, why don't we just shoot the protesters in the legs? It's like, sir, we can't just go out and shoot civilians in the legs. Oh God, I just snorted. Oh God. Oh geez, I'm embarrassed. I should edit that out, but I'm not going to. I don't care. I'm just going to hope the microphone didn't pick it up. Over the last week, the president and his allies have rallied against what Mr. Trump has called radical left political violence following the deadly shooting of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Now, as many problems as I had with Charlie Kirk, this wasn't, I wouldn't describe this as a deadly shooting. I would just straight up call this an assassination. I'm not going to pretend it wasn't. Hours after Kirk was killed last Wednesday, Mr. Trump vowed to find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it. Well, here's the thing. The person who shot Charlie Kirk wasn't linked to any leftist organizations. He probably has, like, and I'm not trying to be that stupid, like, lefty that's deflecting and saying, like, oh, he's actually a right-winger. Now, he could partially, but from my understanding, he was starting to lean at least a little bit left. But that's coming from his family, who is extremely MAGA. Like, if you say, hey, gay people are okay, that's, like, extremely left-leaning to them. But regardless, and I don't, like, get into this whole political side thing, no matter who it is, because at the end of the day, like, what are you going to do? Are you going to prosecute that entire political side? Well, in this case, it looks like that is exactly what Trump is doing, but you can look at every single study done on political violence. It's overwhelmingly done from the right, but you don't see me out here advocating that we need to crack down on all these right-wing groups. That's absurd, because I understand that the actions of one individual do not reflect the actions of everyone that may be in his group, even though, as far as we know right now, what's his dipshit's name, Tyler Robinson or whatever, we don't know what group he was even a part of, if any. Like, evidence shows he wasn't a part of any groups. But this isn't going to stop them as using this as an excuse to crack down on left-wing groups. Earlier this week, after a reporter asked Mr. Trump if he planned on designating Antifa as a domestic terror group, he responded, "It's something I would do." We covered that. He also floated racketeering charges against people that he claimed have funded agitation. The legal impact of designating a U.S.-based group like Antifa as a terrorist organization is not clear. Federal law allows the government to formally label international groups as foreign terrorist organizations and criminally charge people who offer support to them. But a similar legal mechanism doesn't exist for alleged domestic terror groups, according to a Congressional Research Service report. Yeah, and I don't think that's necessarily gonna stop him. Did he declare MS-13 as a terror group? I can't remember. I know he did Trende Aragua, but, like, isn't MS-13 technically a freaking, like, domestic terror group that formed here? I don't know if he actually designated them or not, so I'm not going to really focus on that. But regardless, as I alluded to in the beginning of the video, and this article kind of touched on, this is absurd. And let me tell you why. It's because Antifa, all right, aka anti-fascist, it's not a group. It's not some structured organization like, say, the Proud Boys. There is no leadership of Antifa. It's a movement. It's an idea, and that idea is simply anti-fascist. Now, if Trump was honest, they would just stop saying Antifa, because, again, that's not an actual trademarked group. It's an ideology, a loosely coordinated, if any coordinating exists there, because the left sucks at coordinating, but it's not like some structured group with a hierarchy and leadership for you to actually prosecute. And even if it was, that is absurd, all right? Unless you're going to go ahead and designate the Proud Boys as a terror group as well, because they have committed way more acts of violence than these loosely affiliated Antifa groups could ever imagine. As I can't stress enough, most political violence, and it's not even particularly close, happens from the far right as opposed to the left. Now, with that fact in mind, you don't have leftists going out there after every instance of right-wing violence and saying, we need to crack down on all these right-wing groups, we need to prosecute them, we need to investigate who's funding them and their leadership and all this. No, we don't. I mean, maybe at this point we fucking should, because statistically we are correct on this issue. The right is inherently more violent, but, you know, we understand, like I said, the actions of one individual is not reflective of an entire ideology or group. So even though there's more violence on the right wing, I'm not going to go out here and advocate that, like, right-wing groups shouldn't exist or we should crack down on right-wing groups. Now, there might be small subsets of other lefties or liberals or whatever that may advocate for that, but the broader majority definitely is not advocating for that. And so, like, this is just being used as a broad way to crack down on any group, any leftist or liberal leaning group that says, hey, we don't like fascism. We are anti-fascism. Boom. That means you're Antifa because, again, it's an ideology. It's a movement. It's not an actual organization. You don't have an Antifa card. You're not a card-carrying Antifa member. So that is extremely dangerous. And if someone like Joe Biden or Barack Obama did something like this, it would be an absolute meltdown on the right. They would, be screaming free speech, the government's corrupt, the government's taking over, blah, blah, blah. Like, and you link this with all the other stuff of Trump threatening to de-license media outlets, being pretty much directly responsible for various late night shows being canceled. We now have Jimmy Kimmel. We're going to be covering that here next. But it's just insane. Like, and what do you mean funding? Like, so this is basically giving them the permissibility to go after any group that deems themselves anti-fascism, which is a pretty, that should be a no-brainer thing to just be like, hey, yeah, I'm not for fascist. But of course, the fascist government would want to crack down on them. But like, who are you gonna? So anyone who funds any left-wing group is opening themselves up to investigation. Like, what are you gonna do? You gonna open up an investigation on George Soros? Like, this is opening up a huge can of worms that I don't know how we're gonna put back in, and this is extremely dangerous because there are no guide rails on this second term, and I feel like things are only going to get worse. And the other ironic thing here is, anytime there's like a school shooting or some kind of mass shooting, and the left is like, hey, we need to do something to stop this, like we need gun reform or something. Now, I do agree where we need like basics like red flag laws and background checks. My preferred methods for addressing gun violence is more going into the root of what makes our society violent. So that's in the easiest simple way to put it, which is addressing poverty and also addressing mental illness and making sure people have resources for that. But anyways, like they provide some sort of, I would say, reasonable solution that's proven out by facts and studies and reporting. But the right's like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. We have to mourn. We have to mourn. We have to mourn. Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. But for this Charlie Kirk one, not only are they like, so they're straight to, they are using this, they are doing what they accuse Democrats of doing, which is using a tragedy to push legislation. Well, they're using a tragedy to do broad crackdowns on any political dissidents. There just isn't a comparable comparison here if you are taking both at face value and, just not lying and actually viewing it objectively. But this is the country we live in now, and this is crazy, and I'm not excited to see where this goes, but I think that's all I have on that. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next one. If you made it to this point in the video, I just want to give a special thank you. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button down below. And if you really enjoyed it, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button while you're down there. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I will try to reply to any and all comments that I can. Until next time, watch that video on screen.